Hey everyone, Wags here from Eagle Dynamics, and in this video, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to DCS World, guys, and welcome back to my tutorial series on the A-10C. Today, we're going to take a look at Unguided Rockets. Now, the A-10C can carry 2.75-inch Hydra rockets in a couple of different configurations, and I just want to briefly point out some of the differences from the armament screen here. So let's bring it up. I've got some rockets loaded. What we have for rockets is obviously they're all 2.75-inch Hydra rockets. We have a couple of different launcher options. We have the LAU 131 and the LAU 68. Now in DCS, according to my current research, there is no functional difference between the LAU 131 and the LAU 68. Apparently the only difference is graphical, because with each one we can carry all of the types of rockets and in the various configurations. So what we can do is we can load them up as single rocket pods, and each rocket pod or each rocket launcher carries 7 rockets total, or we can triple them up onto a triple ejector rack and carry 3 pods for a total of 21 rockets per pylon, which is quite a lot of rockets. If you can imagine that, it's you can get over 100 rockets on this airplane, and that's pretty cool. As far as the different types of rockets, we have the M151 high explosive rocket. This rocket's warhead is designed for specifically soft targets, so unarmored vehicles or anti-personnel infantry. We also have the M156 WP. That stands for Willy Pete or White Phosphorus. It's a smoke rocket. Got some parachute illumination and practice smoke rockets as well. Mark 1 practice rocket. Probably won't touch these too much. We also have the Mark 5 high explosive rocket. This is a high explosive anti-tank warhead or heat warhead. That is designed for kill of lightly armored targets, but it is also effective still against infantry. The idea is it has a little bit less fragmentation and a little bit more shape charge for kill of armor, but as we'll see, it's just as effective as the other rocket. Mark 61 practice rockets and WTU-1 Bravo practice rockets. I've never really used these. I've only ever used, and what you'll really only ever use in combat, are the M151s, the M156, and the Mark 5. The M156 Willy Pete, useful for marking targets with smoke from the air. So what I've got loaded on the airplane right now is 4 stations of rockets with triple ejector racks each. And let me go to an external view and you can see what those look like. There you go. You see they're set up in 3 per pylon. Ignore the fact that I've got a bomb on one of the outer pylons there. That's just for weight balance with the targeting pod, as you can see right here. And we will use the targeting pod again. However, we won't be creating a SPI. We'll have one already from a waypoint that I have set up. But in CCIP, you don't need a SPI. And we're going to fire these rockets in CCIP. You can fire these rockets in CCRP. However, it is generally not very practical, and the uses for it are somewhat limited. But I probably will make a video on that a little bit later on, but for our purposes right now, CCIP will do just fine. So with that all said, let's get up in the air and go find some targets and get our weapons set up. Alright, so we're in the air now. We're going to orbit around our favorite target range over here on the Caucasus map. And we need to do a little bit of configuration. There's not too much configuration we need to do for these weapons, but there are some options that we do have. So let's look over at our DSMS over here on the left, MFCD. Pause the camera. So as I mentioned before, we've got 4 stations worth of rockets with triple ejector racks at each, 21 rockets per station, 7 rockets per launcher, for a total of, that's looks like 84 rockets. So that's quite a lot of rockets. So we've got a lot of ammo to play with. But let's quickly look at our profile pages. Profile, once again, ignore the GVU 12 for now. Select Mark V. I've got the Mark V rockets installed right now. Let's click on View Profile. And let's check out our options here. So, as with unguided bombs, we can do these in a ripple. So it'll fire one by one by one by one very quickly. We can set it up to fire in pairs, or we can set it up to fire just singly, or we can ripple off in pairs. So pair after pair after pair, etc. And you'll usually do that for quite a few of your rocket attacks. Mode can be CCIP or CCRP. As I mentioned, we're going to do CCIP today. And just a quick look at the settings. Not too much here. We can specify a minimum altitude if we want to be real safe about it, but we don't have to for this. And let's just make sure everything is good. We're actually going to fire in just singles for now, and then I'll do a ripple pairs after the first attack, so you can see the differences and sort of how they work. So we're going to save right now, even though we really didn't change anything, but good to just save. View the profile again, make sure everything is good. We want to make sure our master arm switch is on. And let me unpause my camera. Good. Real quick, also make sure your TGP switch is on and that your targeting pod is warmed up, which mine is. So I'm going to switch over to the TGP screen here, flip it over to air to ground mode. We're going to make it the sensor of interest with coulis right long. And I've already got a steer point set on top of a waypoint, so I'm going to slave to that speed currently with my targeting pod, and it may actually be behind me at this point. There it goes. Boat switch to flip it over to FLIR mode, and let's zoom in, and as you can see, looking at the targeting pod, I've got a whole bunch of juicy targets over there just waiting to be put into a world of hurt. So that target is about 10 miles behind me, so let me get turned around here. We'll use our master mode button on the HOTAS to switch to CCIP mode. Make the HUD soy coulis hat up short. And we'll select our rockets with the DMS left or right. And if we look at our DSMS, our rockets are selected. They are highlighted green. So we're good to go. And as we line up on these targets, just a few things to keep in mind. We're doing CCIP, but unlike with CCIP with unguided bombs, we don't need to start from a very high altitude, nor do we need a very steep dive angle. If you remember with the unguided bombs, we needed a dive angle somewhere between 35, 40, even 45 degrees if possible, so fairly steep. But with rockets, because we're shooting them out ahead of us, we can dive on the target a little bit more shallow, and that enables us to come at them from a little bit further away, as well as enables us to pull up easier. It just makes using rockets a little bit simpler and a little bit safer than dropping bombs at this stage. Yeah, so let's get close to the target here. Quick pause before we roll on in here. Just wanted to look at the HUD symbology for rockets. Because, again, the rockets fire out ahead of us. Let me just pause my camera. All right. Because the rockets fire out ahead of us, we have our CCIP reticle right up front and center, and we see RKT for rocket. We also have 5.0 here. That's the range to impact where this reticle is pointing. Now, rockets lose their accuracy very quickly beyond about 2 miles. So we're going to try to get within about 2 miles before we actually fire when we line up our pipper on the targets. All right, so unpause camera. So we can see the targets over there, just in the middle of those crossed runways. We're at about 6,000 feet. You don't need to be very high. You could even be a little bit lower than this if you wanted to. Get within about 4 miles. We also don't need to come at it with a really sharp roll in. In fact, this is pretty good right here. You can see the targets off the top of my front dash here. So I'm going to roll on in. A rolling turn into a dive. Go to a very shallow dive, about 15 to 20 degrees. And you can see that range is coming down. Open the speed brakes a little bit. Inside of 2 miles, and weapon release button. 1 away, 2 away, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Speed brakes closed, throttles to full, and pull up out of the dive. And we did some good damage there. Alright, so we're back up here at about 5,500 feet. What we're now going to do is set these rockets up, because we have plenty left, as you can see, for a ripple pairs attack. So, we need to go back over to our DSMS real quick. Pause the camera. Go to our profile page. Mark 5 selected again. Let's view the profile. And we're going to change from ripple single pairs, ripple single there, to ripple pairs. Now it's going to fire out in sets of 2 pairs, obviously. Zoom out slightly because we need the UFC up here, the upfront controller. And let's see, how many pairs do we want to do? Let's say we're going to do 4 pairs. So ripple quantity 4, number 4 here, and then plug it into the ripple quantity field of this profile. Let's also make sure we save. View the profile again real quick, make sure everything took. Ripple pairs, quantity 4, and our settings are same as before for CCIP. And we see that on the main center section of the DSMS as well. Ripple pairs, quantity 4. Alright. Let's get looking straight ahead again and line up to attack these targets. Now what we're going to do is when we want to actually fire, we are going to press and hold the weapon release button until 4 pairs of rockets have fired. I want to press and hold. Alright. We're not pressing repeatedly to fire in pairs. We can set up that way, but in this case we want it to fire all 4 pairs of rockets with 1 press of the weapon release button. We do that by pressing and holding until all the weapons have fired. So I'm just turning in now here, a little bit steep. A good angle, that's actually pretty good, so let's roll in right now. Cut the throttles. Open the speed brake slightly. I'll zoom in and look at the HUD just to make sure I'm nice and lined up. Line the pipper up. 2 miles, 2.1. And we're in range, so press and hold. Throttles to full. Speed brakes closed. And pull up. And we can see those rockets did some pretty good damage on those targets. Now just for fun, let's show you what a ripple single actually looks like. So let's go back over to the profile page. Let me just sort my airplane out here. Good enough for now. Let's sort my airplane out here and check out the profile page once again. So let's view profile. Let's change this to ripple single. And I'm going to change the amount to 7. Ripple single. 7. And save and go back to the status page. Our settings look good. So let's go around and go for another attack. Gonna just climb and get a little bit of altitude here. You can do these attacks from pretty low. Anywhere between 3,000 to 6,000 feet is a good starting point, depending on how much of a lineup you want. If you're really good, you can do it from pretty low. Basically line up on target, fire your rockets, and get out of there very quickly. So we're about 3 miles. I'm going to go ahead and turn in now. This one will be a little bit shallower than before, but again, you know, between around 15 degrees is good. We'll zoom in and look. Cut the throttles. Keep that pipper lined up. We're inside range, and press and hold. 7 rockets away. Let's do it again, same run. Throttles in, speed brakes closed, and pull up. And as you can see, we've done a lot of good damage down there.
Pull up, pull up.
So rockets are really easy to use. You can set them up in a couple of different ways, but they're really simple. You kind of just put the nose on them and kill them, as it were. And they're a lot of fun. They cause a good amount of destruction over a wide area. And like I said, they're really easy to use. So hope that helps you guys. Remember to practice your lineups, practice your run-ins, etc. It's all really important for any of these CCIP weapons uses. And for now, I will see you guys next time. Take care.